Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1496A, and today's date is February 12th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Central Bankers Move to Control the Economic Transition. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the central bankers are making their move to basically redirect everyone away from the cryptocurrencies. And they are definitely making their play right now to make sure that people say, yes, cryptocurrencies, it has its place, but it will never replace the fiat currency system. It will never replace what the central bank does. And they are trying to make their case of why this isn't going to happen. And what they're doing right now is they're trying to push their agenda of making sure that cryptocurrencies, the blockchain system, does not replace what the central banks are doing now, which is just creating currency out of thin air. They don't do much of anything else. Yes, they play with the markets, they manipulate data, they fund their covert operations with the deep state and other organizations, but in all intents and purposes, we don't need the central bank. There's no reason for them whatsoever. They continually make up reasons why we need them, but there is no reason why we need them. A little bit later in this report, I'm going to explain what they were trying to do and why they're trying to make this move. We already see at the same time, and I mentioned this yesterday, that the states, they're adopting cryptocurrencies, the blockchain technology, to be used as payments where you can pay your taxes. Corporations are looking at it saying, you know something, you'll be able to pay for products using the blockchain technology, and soon you'll hear employers say, you know what, we're going to start paying people in cryptocurrencies. Now, which one of these are going to be? It might be Litecoin, it might be Dash, it might be Bitcoin. We don't know as of yet, but they will be using the blockchain technology. There's thousands of different cryptocurrencies that are out there. Just like when the internet first came out, there were a lot of websites, a lot of businesses starting up, and most of them didn't make it. Same thing's going to happen here in the crypto market. And we can see right now there is a battle going on of who is going to control this system in the very end. The central bankers want it to be them. They're going to continually to demonize the blockchain technology, especially Bitcoin and any other cryptocurrency. They're going to tell us we need regulations. They're going to say they need to control it. They're going to put it down. And on the other hand, you're going to see states, corporations, businesses, the people pushing for cryptocurrency to be the system that the people run. And the central bankers at this point and the banking system, they won't be needed. But we see out in the UK, the Brexit right now is being pushed. We know they had a referendum, and the actual negotiations, they could easily run up to the deadline in March of 2019 when Britain is due to leave. Now, if no agreement is forthcoming by that date, both sides might agree to extend negotiations, but that only seems likely if there's a good prospect of an agreement. Otherwise, Britain leaves and falls back on the World Trade Organization trading rules or does away with tariffs altogether. Now, May's greatest problems are likely in dealing with her own advisors, senior civil servants, those individuals who are Keynesians, and they don't want the UK to leave the central banking system. Now, we can see at this point, time is short, not only given the Brexit timetable, but ideally it must be concluded or at least set in stone before the disruption of the next crisis or global credit cycle. And they are really running out of time at this point because we can see that a lot of things are starting to break down. And they have until 2019. They would like to have this done ahead of time, but of course, every time they try to push it ahead, the EU, pushes back, and it's very difficult to get anywhere. And we see why, because the central bankers, they're going to do whatever they possibly can because nobody leaves their system. Nobody breaks away, especially when they created it for everyone to be within it. Just like now with the crypto market, with the transition, the central bankers are going to do whatever they have to fight and keep everyone in their system. And any country that is outside of their system, well, they become the enemy. We've seen this before. We see Amazon is doing something very interesting. They're cutting about 100 jobs at the Seattle headquarters. And this is very odd because they're booming in sales and they're laying off people. And there's different stories that are going back and forth. saying that Amazon, they were subject to this New York Times bombshell article that was back in 2015 that described a workplace culture where employees were constantly pitted against each other and managers were expected to be on call day and night. The culture reportedly emanated from Jeff Bezos himself, who has frequently pushed for the company to cull inadequate performers. Amazon then denied the story, but the Seattle Times say managers are under pressure from Bezos to weed out the lowest performing employees, and this is what they're going with right now. Maybe there's something else that's underlying this whole entire thing, but we see at this point something is definitely going on. We see Trump, well, he has released his $4 trillion budget proposal, and there are many different things that are within this proposal. We see there is a $716 billion for defense, which includes a 2.6% pay raise for troops, $80 billion in IT and cyber funding, as well as $210 million for technology modernization fund, nearly $17 billion in opioid-related spending in 2019, including $10 billion in new funding for HHS, requests $18 billion for border wall construction, and there's a whole list of other things going on here. And we can see what is happening here. And a lot of people are getting confused, saying, well, this is not going to help the system. This doesn't help with the budget. Remember, this fiat system that the central bankers have created here, it's pretty much dead. Take someone who is going bankrupt, and they know they're going to be going bankrupt. Many of these individuals say, you know what, let's put as much as we possibly can on the credit cards. Let's spend as much as we can because we know we're going to end up going bankrupt. And all of this is going to be wiped away. The system that we're in right now, well, it's the same thing. The Chinese know this. This is why they've been selling their treasuries and using the dollars to build their infrastructure. Here, might as well use the fiat dollar system to build your infrastructure, to pay for all this, bring it up to a level that we need to bring it up to. So when we transition, guess what? You don't have to do that. That's completely out of the budget. And all this fiat debt that the central bankers created and pushed it on the people, well, it just completely disappears. Now, the central bankers, they are pushing their agenda to create an atmosphere that the crypto market, this is nothing that big. It's not a big deal. It's not going to take over the fiat currency system, and it's really nothing to look at. Now, JP Morgan, they created the Bitcoin Bible, letting everyone know how cryptocurrencies works and saying, what crypto and Bitcoin are and, how it works and all that stuff. And we know that Jamie Dimon was out there and he had this outburst against Bitcoin. We know that JP Morgan, they trade in Bitcoin. They're in the crypto market, but they're trying to make everyone believe that the crypto market is nothing to worry about. And we can see that there's about 71 pages of this Bible that they created. And parts of it says, given the hurdles of cryptocurrencies, they are more likely to be used as an ancillary payment method rather than gaining traction as a primary source of exchange. While seeing a potential for the deployment of the underlying blockchain technology and payments, we do not see cryptocurrencies competing with the central bank issued money for lawful transactions. It's very interesting how they put in there bank issued money for lawful transactions, because what they've been trying to do is they've been trying to show that cryptocurrencies is used by criminals, terrorists, and it's unlawful. Some of the earlier buyers, they said, of cryptocurrencies were clearly dismayed by ballooning balance sheets of the major central banks in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, but the lack of any meaningful inflation since then, guess what? It seems like they were wrong and everything is fine. And they went on to say that several central banks, as discussed in Feroli, are investigating whether they should issue cryptocurrencies in their own currency, but are very far from actually doing so, as any increase in efficiency in payment technology does not appear to be that obvious. In addition, the issuance of crypto dollars, for example, would give non-banks access to the Fed balance sheet and thus could endanger the economically and socially important financial intermediation function of commercial banks. What they're really saying is this would put them out of business. And it would endanger everything that they've been doing, laundering money, creating currency out of thin air, keeping the Ponzi scheme going, creating bubbles. They went on to say, if cryptocurrencies survive the next few years, remember, just listen to what they're saying, if it survives the next few years and remains part of the global market, then they will likely have exited their current speculative phase and would then have more normal returns. Volatilities and correlations based on its historical performance, cryptocurrencies can be 10 times more volatile than core assets like stocks or than portfolio hedges like commodities. In the current market conditions, we do not believe that an allocation to cryptocurrencies as insurance should be a portfolio's main or only hedge. Note that even though cryptocurrencies have improved risk-adjusted returns over the past several years, they have not prevented portfolio drawdown during periods of acute market stress, like the equity flash crashes of August 2015 and February 2018. So they're using those downturns in the cryptocurrency to say this is why you don't want to use it. So basically they're trying to steer you away, saying yes, there is a place for them, but it's not going to replace what the banks and the central banks do. Then we move on to the IMF, where we have Christine Lagarde. She is out there saying it's only a matter of time before cryptocurrencies come under government regulation. Yes, regulations, they are good, but when they are regulated by the central banks, that puts pressure on the government to make the central banks in control of everything. That's where there is a problem. And she says it's clearly a domain where we need international regulation and proper supervision. Proper supervision by who? And of course, they mean them. She also noted that there is probably quite a bit of dark activity in cryptocurrency. There's no dark activity in currency that they created, right? There's no money laundering. There's no one stealing from the ATMs. There's no one using their currency for drug deals. Only cryptocurrencies. The IMF is actively trying to prevent digital currencies from being used to launder money or finance terrorism. She said regulators need to focus less on entities and more on activities, who is doing what and whether they're properly licensed and supervised. So basically she's making the case of why the central bank system needs to control the crypto market. And we can see already with Jamie Dimon with his Bitcoin Bible saying that, yeah, there's a place for cryptocurrency, but it's not going to replace the central bank. Then the IMF coming out saying, yeah, all you people that want cryptocurrency to replace us, it's not going to happen. Then we have the New York Fed economists out there. And the Federal Reserve Bank of New York published an interview on their site on Friday, February 9th, in which two of its economists explained cryptocurrency, highlighting crypto's trustless nature, but expressing doubt that cryptocurrency could ever realistically compete with current payment methods, on the notion that virtual currencies are not backed by anything real, such as gold. Now, they even came out and said, listen, cryptocurrencies aren't backed by anything real. Just like it's not backed by gold. Really? The dollar's backed by gold? No, it's not. Actually, what is the dollar backed by? Oh, that's right. The full faith and credit of the United States? The dollar and all these currencies you see out there, they're backed by nothing. They're created out of thin air. They're really talking about themselves, if you really think about it. Because if the central bankers were so concerned about having currency backed by something, why didn't they leave it backed by gold? Oh, then they couldn't do their dirty work. Then there couldn't be all this money laundering and supplying funds for terrorism and all this other stuff. And if you really think about it, they're trying to convince you that cryptocurrencies are a bad thing. The economist went on to say that, added that trust in a given currency is what gives it value in payment environment and makes it an acceptable medium of exchange. In the case of cryptocurrencies, said trust is not provided by any given government or institution, only the blockchain technology. Let's think about this for a second. So there's no central bank, there's no government or any other institution that can provide trust. Well, the blockchain is a ledger. you can go back and the ledger can't lie because it's diversified onto many different systems, decentralized. It's not a central location where someone can go in and change the ledger. So if you have a ledger entry in one location and it doesn't match a ledger entry in 3 different locations, guess what? That one location is lying. And what they're trying to tell you is that you really want a truthful system like this ledger to be the trust machine? Yes, we do. Because we can trust that because there's no people involved in it. Like the central bank. Wait a minute. The central bank is not transparent. The central banks won't let any government audit them. Actually, the Fed won't let the United States, the people of the United States, audit the Fed. The entire blockchain technology is one big trust machine. That's the whole purpose of it. And they're trying to convince everyone that it isn't. And the way they're doing it is they're telling you that, it has a dark side. It can be used for terrorism. It's not trustworthy. It's not backed by anything. And if you really think about it, it's really the central bank system. It's not trustworthy. The central banks won't let us see anything in what they're doing. We don't know where the currency is going. It's not backed by anything. They push a button and it's created out of thin air. It's used all over the world for drug transactions, to supply terrorism with funds. The intelligence agencies use the currency to push their covert operations. They keep doing this all over the place. They're really talking about themselves. And if you look at the crypto market right now, this is based on a trust machine. It's not centralized, where they create everything. They hide everything. Everything is out in the open. You can see what's going on. They don't like this. They don't like it at all. Yes, maybe there are not names attached to everything, but I have to say, their covert funding and their money laundering, there's no names attached to that either. So we can see right now, they are making their case of why, and they're very worried. If they're doing this right now, they're very worried that this is going to overtake their system. And they know if it does, they're done for. Because people will see that there's no reason to have a central bank. There's no reason to have a bank. So we have 2 things happening right now. We have the central bankers pushing their agenda for the transition. They don't want cryptocurrencies. They don't want them. Yes, there's a place for them, but it's going to be like a gold market that we can control, commodities market that we can control, and this is not going to replace the fiat currency system. Then we have the people who want an open truth machine that the people control. And nobody is borrowing this currency, and no one is expecting interest along with it, where they put people into debt. That's what the central bankers do. They lend money out to governments. They say, now you owe us the money that we just lent you plus interest. The blockchain doesn't work that way. And again, this goes against their entire system. So we're going to see this battle rage right now between the truth machine, which is the blockchain technology, and the central banks who are going to try to damage it. And I do believe they're the ones who bought a lot of Bitcoin. They made Bitcoin go up. They sold it off. They made it drop because they wanted to show the volatility, because that's the only way, and this is the only thing they can do to make it look like it's scary. Because if you see this, that is scary. But guess what? In an open free market, this is really how it works. A controlled market, everything looks like everything is great, but it's an illusion, because as soon as they want to bring it down, the whole thing falls apart. And we see right now, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to scare everyone. If you notice, every time they try to bring it down and show people that it's too scary, it shoots right back up. Because they really can't control it. They're trying to with futures. They're trying to do it with, everything that they're putting out there now, but it's all failing. So we're going to see this battle rage on as we move into the transition, and hopefully we transition away from the central banks, which I believe this is the direction that we are moving, and we transition into the blockchain technology where the people will have control of the currency, not a centralized system. So no matter what happens here, you need to be prepared for this transition because it's going to be a very bumpy ride. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.